Okie dokes. Good evening, everyone. And I'm reconvening to open session the regular meeting of the Fairview District 72 Board of Education. It is January 18th, 2023, and just a little bit after 7 o'clock. So before we start, I would just like to remind everybody to, am I echoey? Oh, I can just hear it's a bit echoey. Remind everybody to turn off their cell phones and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance. Thank you. Oh, that sounds better. I'm not so echoey. Okay, so first item of business this evening is to approve the minutes of the regular and closed session meetings of December 21st, 2022. Can I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, are there any questions or edits to the minutes? Everybody good? In that case, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say nay. The minutes are approved. Next is the payment of the bills. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the payment of the bills in the amount of $636,986.05?
So moved.
I'll second. It's quite a low number this month. It's not over the million as it has been several months. Are there any questions regarding the bills? Okay, hearing none. In that case, could the secretary please call a roll call vote?
Yes, Ms. Boosty. Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. Diakakis.
Yes.
Ms. Downing. Mr. Guliana.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
Excellent. Bills are paid. So next we have PTA. Is there a member of PTA that, oh, excellent, would like to give us a report?
Actually, thank you. Good evening. I'm Steve Ledden, one of the co-presidents. In the last month or so, unfortunately, because of the snow day, we had to cancel the traditional type of classroom winter party, but the parents tried to bring in the items that they had prepared so that the teachers can do that when they had time, so that they can still have something for winter. We had our last general meeting on Wednesday, January 11th, the most recent meeting. Parents are working hard on creating a virtual book fair this year because of space. We have to go back to the virtual format, hopefully until next year when the new library should be ready. We're continuing to send out the newsletters to provide information. One of the kind of unique things this last week, we sent out a message to kind of support one of our families who lost a parent. One of our students lost a parent over break. So kind of just trying to spread the word for anybody who's able to provide any kind of support, or even if it's emotional, kind of to help to be aware of the situation. We also had, we have a benefit night tonight for Panda Express. And as usual, anytime they mention the Fairview South PTA at one of these, we get a portion of the proceeds that go to the PTA. We have parents who are working really hard at bringing back the Winter Dance and Bingo Night on January 27th, from Friday, January 27th, from 6 to 8 p.m. We're definitely still in need of a lot of volunteers for that to kind of make sure it goes smoothly. And then parents are, even though winter kind of just happened, parents are getting ready for the Valentine's Day party, getting ready to prepare the activities for that event as well. And then our next general meeting will be on Wednesday, March 8th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for your report. Next item is administrative reports. No, I'm sorry, school activity report. I keep skipping over that, don't I? So does anybody have good news to share from the district? Anyone?
Sure, I have some good news. The night of our last board meeting, our our varsity girls basketball team won the Little Nine championship. So I was very grateful that I was allowed to attend and support. It was at Niles West High School against Lincoln Hall. It was very nice to look across the court at Dr. Russo and be victorious against him with a smile and a handshake at the end. So, but it was really great, incredible sportsmanship from both teams, which is really neat to see. All those students will eventually go to school together. So, you know, I think saying to Dr. Whitaker, just our girls are fierce, but then when someone hit the ground or fell, they were the first to help anyone up, which was really nice to see. So that caught my attention. And we definitely commented to them how proud of them we are. The boys basketball season started last week into this week with teams being set and games starting here soon. So that was a great way to go out for winter break. And then they didn't have school the next day, which made it even more bittersweet for them. Sorry, I know the microphone's cutting out.
So was Dr. Russo a gracious loser as per
He
his
was.
statement in the gym?
He was. We walked in close to the same time and he was talking to some people and I kind of just waited till he acknowledged that I was there. And then we met in a very dramatic fashion at midcourt. No, we just said hello and he sat with his staff and we had some teachers there to support the girls too and a lot of families. So it was a nice evening. So
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we did hear about it during the meeting because Cindy got a text to say that David was buying lunch.
that's and
Yeah.
yep, I didn't want to announce that. But yes, he is. So he emailed me already and asked when he could shore up on his bed. So
I'm sure. he
And,
will.
and it's lunch for the girls.
for the girl, yeah,
It's
for the
not
team.
for us, it's for the
Oh,
girls.
Excellent. Even better.
And I just wanted to share that we have a new student teacher working with our special education middle school department, which happens to be a Fairview alum. So that's really exciting. It's really nice to have previous students come back and work with us.
Excellent. Great. Anyone else? Good. Well, it's glad to see that schools got off to a great start in the second semester. Now it's administrative reports. So our first one is our friends from FQC doing a construction update. And do we have a,
And Archon.
And Archon as well,
So
yes, that of
George
course,
is here
yeah.
from Archon and Jack is here from FQC. We're going to start off the presentation with a video with the most current photos of the project. So bear with us for a minute or two and we'll show the video and then whichever one of you gentlemen would like to go first, feel free. Woohoo.
Okay, so some pretty dramatic progress taking shape, and it's nice to see some things going vertical. So masonry continues on, coordinated with ongoing foundations and excavation for some final footings and foundations. Underground utility work, you see the pipe sticking out of the ground for primarily plumbing and underground water and sanitary. Coordinated all with electrical for in-wall rough-in with the masonry. Some of the openings that you saw are to facilitate construction. We still need to work around a very tight site and are limited on some of those things. So we have to leave some section of the building out so we can do all of the interior and then work our way back out, which will then go out. We have been working through some, although the weather has been good from a temperature standpoint, there have been some bad days because of rain or wet conditions, which slow things down or make it impossible to work. So we have been working some Saturdays. We'll be working this Saturday, and things are progressing. So any questions on progress?
No, I mean, we heard about the concrete delays, but
Yep.
we're over that bridge
Yeah, the
now.
concrete delays are over. It's not impacting us or the industry at this point in time.
Okay.
It did cause, again, some issues with regard to the overall schedule, that and some underground utilities that we had to work around and resolve. So there has been we really want to be in steel, putting steel up right now. And as you can tell from the progress photos, we're a little bit behind that. So there's been a little bit of that we have to make up for.
Any other shortages on the horizon? Any other shortages that you
No,
can envisage?
Not that we're seeing right now. We're working through some things. They pop up. They're just very random. We had to work through talk through a little issue today on some electrical gear that, if we got it in one piece, it would be later in the year, but if we got it in parts and pieces and assemble it, we can get it sooner. So those are the kind of things that we're dealing with right now. Talk about the award.
Yes.
So we
please.
had, we did have a bid opening over the holidays as well, for the final remaining bid packages, that we deferred until this time, based on a couple of things. One was the economic conditions going on at the time, and that we didn't need them right away. And that has also allowed us to look at some other elements, most notably the track, surfacing, redoing the track surface. So in your board packet is a recommendation for 4 bid packages, I believe, if my
Yes.
memories,
Yeah.
if anything. So window treatments, which we held off on, I got some coordination done with Archon on that to get that finalized. The new parking lot, the paving, which is essentially an all-new parking lot, reconfigured, bus turnarounds and parking and all of that. The new track, a new infield hard play surface, as well as the resurfacing and redoing of the what will become a tennis basketball court on Park District property. So that's the asphalt and then landscaping to go around all the new improvements. And then the final item, which was fencing and gates. So we had good coverage. We had good results. The bids came in pretty much where we wanted them to with regard to the overall project budget, and the addition of the track, which is included in the recommendation, would result in about a little over $300,000 in added cost to the overall project for a new track and infield hard surface play area.
And that's one item that we do need to get some consensus from the board on. For a variety of reasons, we think it's prudent to go ahead and replace the track at this time. It was in disrepair prior to the project starting. It's worse now. So we were going to be looking at doing something with the track in the next few years. We received good pricing. And there is some economy to scale here, with doing all of the asphalt and whatnot. We think that kids in the community heavily use the track. And so having it in, good condition, great condition, hopefully, for people to really use makes a lot of sense. So, we would recommend that we go forth with that at this time, but it wasn't included in the original project. So, you all need to agree, that makes sense at this point in time. So, and we can talk about it now. When we get to that point in the meeting, it is included in the recommendation. So if you approve the recommendation as it is, then the track is included. But I just want to be very transparent that was not an original portion of this project.
But just to be clear, that area, the land is our land. It's not part of the Park District.
Yes, for the most part.
Yeah.
About 95% of that track is on school property, and a small little edge at the far south side is Park District property. Kind of like the tennis court situation. Our property line is, right there. So, that wouldn't be an issue with the Park District because we're not asking them to cover the cost, and we wouldn't because it's a very small portion of that track surface.
Would it be asphalt again or like a different material?
It'll be an asphalt base with a coating, a rubberized coating.
And will it be the same width, like walking track?
Well, actually, it's essentially the same size, but dimensionally, it's gonna change just slightly. You remember?
Very slightly.
So we're putting a coating on it to make sure it is a proper running track. And as
Okay.
we did the dimensions and looked at it, there were a couple discrepancies in the overall size. So they kind of adjusted those, so it is a proper 200-meter running path.
So it's to make it precisely a 400-meter
exact-
track?
200, I think.
Oh, 200. Oh, what do I know? It's a
But-
long time
but
since I
a
ran that.
correct- You're hitting the right around a lapse to get the right mile. So
Okay.
yes, at the end of the day, they correct course on that.
Okay. And I think obviously, yeah, you mentioned about the tennis courts, that is a part of the original thing, and that was just an agreement that even though technically that is Skokie's property, we've been using it. So it's kind of doing a nice neighborly thing to restore it to the way it was before. so-
Right, so part of the early planning of this was to identify the best way to stage for construction. And that's how we landed on the cooperative agreement with the park
Yeah.
district to utilize that space, with the understanding that we would restore
Restore
that
it.
and the path out to the
Yeah.
street. And then they were planning, much as the discussion about your track, they were planning on doing some work in that area anyways. So included in your recommendation and in the awards is the fencing
Mhm.
for the new perimeter fencing for that area,
Yeah.
which will then be reimbursed by the park district to the school district.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
So it's just a collaboration.
Yeah, it's a really good.
The good
work.
relationship we have with them is coming true, that, and the upshot of it all is that the community gets, new tennis court, new basketball court, new track.
Right.
And new school.
And it's allowed us to preserve the green space for students, because that would have been the staging area.
Yeah.
It would have been the interior of the track.
Right.
It would have been, and so the fact that we've had those green spaces for kids through this entire
Mm-hmm.
school year, although very muddy at times,
Mm-hmm.
that has been, really important to us, because otherwise the kids wouldn't have had anywhere to play, and it's not good for them. So that the collaboration with the park district has been awesome. And the fact that we're going to be able to have a basketball court come out of that is just another extra play space for the kids. So we're really, really excited about that.
It's gonna look great.
I just wanted to check in really quick about, like, is the timeline still, are we still kind of on pace to be done September of 23?
Yes, in our original plan, we were hoping to turn the new work over a little bit earlier in the summer than what we're projecting now. But we went through the details of that schedule, and we're still gonna get everybody in before Labor Day with furniture and get those classrooms set up and allow teachers the time to set up their spaces.
Excellent. Any other questions while we're here?
Okay, and then George is gonna kind of talk the board through sort of what the architects have been up to while Quinn has been working on the outside. They continue to work with us on the
Yeah,
insides.
this is the, and there's more moment right here. So, so yes, we haven't just kind of been sitting by watching. One of our key pieces as architects is we've been working with Frederick Quinn, helping solve problems and answer questions and clarifications for contractors. So as the construction's been going on, us and our engineers have been coming out and make sure we're fielding questions, making sure things are meeting the design intent. Like anything, when you're doing renovations and additions, there are unforeseen issues that come up. So it's how do you game plan and pivot correctly? So our engineers have been doing that. But the fun part is actually looking at furniture. So for the last few months, we've been working with Larson Company, which is a furniture vendor that's been helping kind of mold the spaces. And if you remember early on when we showed the pretty pictures, that was us with the limited technology tools saying, here's what it can be. Well, now it's the reality part of it, right? So our interiors department's been working with staff here to help finalize the furniture in the library. That I think we've kind of come to the conclusion of picking it. But then expanding those picks, those selections, and looking at the offices, the classrooms, the ancillary support spaces. And where we stand now, most of it has been selected. There's a few pieces in those small rooms that are getting finalized. But once those pieces do get finalized, the next fun part is picking finishes. That's the part I step back on. But they will come back with the different color palettes of different fabrics to make sure it goes. So at that stage where we're at now, we are looking at another week or so to share with those final selections with the district. And then by the time we pick fabrics, by mid-February, we should have a full package together for you to be able to pick from and say what you want to get to help furnish some places. Now, mind you, all this was designed backwards because I know you're going to ask the question is, will this furniture come in time? And yes, we put our finish line first and say, when do we need our milestones to make sure that we project out and order this in time to make sure we're successful in getting it in before school starts. That's really it.
And I think you all would be proud of the process because every staff member who is going to be in a new space has had an opportunity to sit down with the interior team from Archon, talk about the spaces, talk about their needs, how they use the space. And so they have had input on everything from, the shape of the desk to the bin that goes under the desk to hold the books to, the kidney shaped table or, it takes time when you involve so many people. And we're really trying to keep sort of, a consistent plan for, we want all of the third grade classes to look pretty much the same, but we wanted the teachers to come to consensus on that. So anytime you go through a process like that, it's really time consuming. So thank you for letting us have the time and work through that. And, I think we're getting to a really good place and the staff are going to be, they're nervous about the timeline and getting moved in and being ready, but they're really excited because they've had so many opportunities to be a part of that process. So I'm feeling really good about that.
Yeah.
It's been pretty fun.
Yeah, it's been great.
So.
Now that is the end on our side, I think.
Any questions for Jack or George or myself? Anything that we can answer?
The only, one thing that I'm thinking about as the NTDSC representative, and I know you're talking to Taryn and talking about getting space for them. Is fall 2023 too early to think of a satellite space here?
No.
So, because I know you're going to be talking to her in the next month, so
Right.
we're gonna.
Yeah, we've
hopefully-
already had discussions with Taryn. We're talking about, while Fairview may not be ready to open a general education preschool until the fall of 24, we're looking at potentially programming for special education preschool students.
early childhood.
In fall of 23, correct? But we're also looking at a couple of other programs. In doing this, we're creating space throughout the building.
Right.
And so there are a lot of different classroom options that NTDSE could take advantage of. She's going to need to know, she's going to really need some specific commitment from us a little bit later in the spring.
Right.
And I'm
Okay.
hoping by then our team will be feeling really comfortable with, yes, this project's going to finish.
Here's
Yes,
what
we're
we
going to
have.
have the spaces because I don't want to commit to her and her students until we feel really confident.
Agreed. Great.
But yeah, there are many options on the table right now. And, it feels good to be able to have some options to share. And I think Taryn's pretty excited about it. Jeff, I don't remember, when did we meet with her for the first time on this? I think it was in October. So, yeah,
I
so the
mean, I just-
conversation's been,
Their enrollment obviously is
Yes.
just
yeah.
skyrocketing. So
Yes.
that's great. Thanks.
Great. Any other questions?
We're good.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for your report. And I'm glad things are really going well. We'll be looking at those bids later on for an action item. And I'm pretty sure you're good to go full steam ahead. Thanks very much for coming this
Thank
evening.
you.
Okay, so next report I have is superintendent report.
Just a couple of highlights to share with the board. I had the opportunity through EdRed to participate in a lively conversation with several legislators over the last couple of weeks about the asylum seekers. They're focusing on funding, and aspects of funding to support school districts who have taken on the responsibility for these students. So it's always an interesting conversation. I I'm probably been around the business for too long to really get too excited about the thought of any funding really coming our way, but we'll wait and see. At least there's a conversation going on about it. But do know that, I and the other superintendents of the districts that have received students are, really working to advocate on our behalf to try to, not only funding, but better communication and many things related to the asylum seekers. So that has been a top priority, as well as, overseeing the ongoing care of the children and supporting them as their families are making some decisions about moving to other areas. So that has been very consuming for us so far in the new year. I'd also just like to highlight that our math teams are continuing to look at math programming, as we will be hoping to bring a recommendation to the board about a new math curriculum adoption later this school year. So that is ongoing. We are planning a lot for next year, not only in terms of the facility, but the staffing needs. So with new learning spaces and new programs, there's always the need for additional personnel. So we'll be bringing those recommendations to the board in the next month or two. So that's something that we've been working on pretty seriously. And, just trying to stay on top of the logistics of this construction. As we move into spring, the thought of the process of getting teachers boxed up out of their rooms in a very short window of time is it's a giant puzzle and trying to figure out all those moving pieces. But we're thinking about it now because we don't want our staff to be finding themselves having to spend time here this summer because we know they like to do other things during the summer. So we're really trying to get our ducks in a row to be well organized and prepared, but we also don't want to pack up classrooms before school is over because the children shouldn't be sitting in classrooms full of boxes. So it's kind of trying to find that balance in making all of this happen. So, as he mentioned, furniture, logistics, a lot of details that are very important. And, like I said, when we include staff in that process, it's very time consuming. But I think the outcome is very, very good. So those have been sort of the top items on my list, my to-do list each day. So do you have any questions about any of the other items or anything else I can answer?
Well, good. Two things, quick question. I know the kids are mapped NWA testing. Do the newcomers have to participate in that?
We had a long debate about this. They are participating and they are taking the Spanish version of the test. As we think about these students moving on to other schools, we have little data that we can pass along with them. And we thought that would be a very good data point to share.
Would it be included in the overall Fairview like charts and stuff we see?
I believe it will, and I think that will require explaining. That's something we will have to sort out. Yeah.
Okay. And then the math curriculum, I know we talked at one point about having our presenter do like community engagement. How's that looking?
Yeah. So at last month's meeting, we talked about the woman who we're working with on the math curriculum is going to create a webinar for the parents community to view, as well as our teacher community. So we have a team of probably about 10 teachers, a representative from every grade level, K through 8, as well as our, spin out teachers, math spin out teacher, math interventionists are all a part of the committee. But our consultant is going to put together a webinar to kind of walk the community through the programs that we're considering. And it will then include a feedback survey so that anyone who would be interested in providing us their feedback on what they've viewed can provide their feedback that way. We thought it was a really much better way to get a broader sense of what the community is thinking. So we'll see. We've never done anything like that before, but I'm excited about trying it, and we'll see how it goes.
I applaud that. That's about as transparent about the situation as you can be. That's perfect. Okay, so any other questions for Cindy? Nope. Okay, so we're moving on to board policies. So we spent quite a bit of time on these last month, and you remember I gave you the crib sheet, which basically sort of boiled the essential ones down to you know, the identifying the ones that were actually really changing, as opposed to any kind of just small language changes or reference changes or 5-year review. The only one that we had some question about was the one regarding substitute teachers, because in the summary sheet from press, it said that in the event that there was an emergency health situation declared by the governor, which is what we're in now, with COVID, then a substitute teacher could work for as many as 15 days instead of just the usual 5 days. But in the policy itself, the number changed to 30 days. But there was also a slight difference. One said 15 consecutive, and the other one said 30 days. So whether the consecutive was the issue, I'm not really sure. So Cindy and I were reaching out. I was reaching out to Alana Bedard that we met December. We met her in December from IASB, and I didn't hear back from her. So I don't know if you were able to find anything from your contact.
I got conflicting information also
Oh,
from the
great.
people that I reached out to. However, I'm just looking. Yeah, so I think it's probably in our best interest to table this policy to next month until we have clarity. And then we'll bring it back for a final second reading next month.
Yeah, I think that's the safest thing. So when it comes to our action item later on, when we're going to be approving these policies, I will mention in the action item that we're actually removing from the list 5:220 regarding substitute teachers until we get some clarification on exactly what the text should say.
I have a
It's just
question.
conflicting.
What's your policy for COVID for the teachers if they test positive?
What specifically are you asking?
Like how many days? Like, I'm just trying to understand also includes new language on COVID-19 paid administrative leave. Employees that qualify have to be fully vaccinated.
So
Yeah.
I think what you're asking, and we've had this discussion with the union, if a teacher is required to be away from work due to being positive for COVID or having to care for a school-age child positive for COVID, those are days that are not counted against their current sick leave.
Does that mean only if they're fully vaccinated? Because there was something later on that it's like a default no, if I recall.
I do think you were required to be fully vaccinated to qualify.
And, you know, I think I can say this publicly, we're very blessed that our staff have, fully participated in being vaccinated. And so I don't believe that is an issue presenting itself to us specifically. It could in the future.
Sure, it could because if somebody comes, but there was something later on. I'm trying to find it on a page.
I mean, I think the key thing is they can still take the time off to do what they have to do. Obviously, if they're sick, then they're sick.
Right.
Or if they're caring for a young child, they can still take the time off. The law in this section relates to them being reimbursed for that time.
Correct.
Because at the moment, then they would take sick days, but they would be reinstated. So they would not be using sick days in their own collection of sick days.
Sure, but it still just like breaks out between if you have to qualify
You have
for
to
that.
qualify to get those sick days returned to you. You have to be vaccinated.
Something.
And is that just like a state policy or?
That's a state law. Yeah, it was enacted at the time when COVID was really at its peak.
Right.
And it doesn't just relate to teachers, it relates to all staff employed by a school, because I got my days back when I got COVID last year. And I'm not a qualified teacher, but and it was extended for the school year, and then I think it was extended a little bit into this current school year, and
Yes.
then it was decided that this was now extended again. So it's for this current school year, I believe, at the moment.
Yes.
So that's why
is.
it's made it into the policy, because it's now policy, it's now law.
I'm sorry for clarifying. It is a law, not just a
Law.
policy.
No, it's a law, it's a state law.
Okay.
Okay, so we figured out what the question was. There was a question about whether or not we require employees to participate in the district COVID testing program.
Oh,
So that was when the district signed on to shield testing. Some districts require their employees to participate in that to then be able to qualify to have sick leave returned. Does that make sense? So
yeah.
we're not doing COVID testing in the school.
Yeah, okay, I just wanted to clarify that, but to qualify, you still, to have the additional sick days if needed, even to care for a child, they have to qualify by being fully vaccinated.
Correct, or they would have a religious exemption from being vaccinated, which is also an option.
I see, and then they would still qualify. Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions about those policies? So when we come to the approval at the end of the vote at the end of the meeting, then I will just state that we're leaving out 5:220. Okay, doke. So moving on to board committees and representatives. First one on the list is EdRed, which is me. So a few things that it kind of got a bit exciting, actually. I don't know, did you receive the notification from EdRed about contact your legislator right now? You did? Okay, I'm glad, because that means you're all on the list now, which is great, because I think for a while you weren't. But anyway, that was something that occurred in the lame duck session, which is now completed. And obviously we're now in the new 103rd General Assembly that everybody was signed in, or sworn in, I mean, last week. But this was something from Ram Villavalam, who is actually a legislator in our area. He filed for there to be a bill relating to sex education to make it required in all schools from K to 12, and that it would actually be starting next school year. And this goes against what the previous bill that came out, the legislation that came out last year, and we changed our policy to it, which, if you remember, it said that we either adhere to the state law or we actually have an option of doing our own thing. And so it's all about local control, but this actually would take that away, and it would actually put it firmly according to the new legislation as to what needs to be taught in school between K and 12. So EdRed was pretty alarmed by this when it was actually asking its members to contact their legislator and express their concern about it. The real concern is that there really is no time to implement this between now and the next school year, because it was supposed to be starting from sort of 1st of July this year. That, you know, it's a mandate that obviously there is no funding for that kind of mandate, and there was no stakeholder input in this whole situation. So the situation we're at now is it's actually did not make it in the lame duck session. It's expected to surface again, but hopefully this time around that there'll actually be considerable more input from the stakeholders and conversation had as to how this should actually form. So that was one big issue that flared up in the last couple of weeks ago. Cindy mentioned that she's been meeting with legislators about the new arrivals, and there was a Zoom meeting that was put together by EdRed in December. I think it was a day after our meeting in December. And that was with Representative Fred Crespo, who actually seemed really positive about moving things forward to help the school districts that are handling these influx of new arrivals. And he's now filed a bill in the House, which is basically looking at the financial side of things, and it would be providing grants to those school districts with new arrivals. And he's looking at appropriating $35 million to do that. So again, that's definitely in the early days right now, but that's something that EdRed is very much involved with. The other one that is of note that is key to schools and you know, is of concern to us as a school would be a bill that was filed both in the House and the Senate, requiring schools to provide kosher or halal food options in their food that's provided to students at lunchtime. It didn't get anywhere in the lame duck session. And EdRed is now working with those legislators to start that conversation and clearly the logistics of implementing that, regardless of the cost, the logistics of implementing it is of great concern because obviously there's numerous rules that schools would have to follow to keep with those kosher and halal regulations. So that's what EdRed is working on right now. I understand that I am going to have some friends with me at the EdRed dinner at the end of the month. That's great. I'm really glad that Jackie and Diana are coming along, but there still is time if you want to contact Drew about joining us for the EdRed dinner. It's on the last Monday of the month, and I can't remember what day that actually is, but the 23rd. Got it. Yeah. So that's next Monday. It is. There's still time. Just get your order in quick. But I will work it out with you ladies, and we'll plan on going up together next week. That'd be really great. So that's my EdRed report. Next one is NTDSE.
Okay, we did have an NTDSE governing board meeting last week. It's an amazing, amazing group of people. So just know it's an awesome, I'm so grateful Vicki laid the groundwork for me to move in. We had an amazing presentation from their vision itinerant team. So each governing board meeting, we get to sort of meet one of their teams or hear about things that they're doing. We heard a lot about early childhood last year, so I'm super excited that we can possibly partner with them. Their vision team is phenomenal and so energetic. It literally made me research how to get a vision itinerant certificate because I was so excited. But I know we have one student here at Fairview that is served by their vision itinerant team. All of the equipment and all of the sort of cutting edge things they have are part of our membership with NTDSE. So all of the services that our student gets here are just come with the membership we have with them. Yeah.
I'm just going to jump in there. Those are purchase services. So it's a little bit of an add-on depending on the amount of time that the student receives those services. So it is a little bit of an extra, correct, right? Similar to OT or PT.
Gotcha. So
So
it's like an added
just to be
related
clear.
service.
Yes,
Okay,
correct.
understood. I think what the team was sort of projecting is that all of the equipment and things that they use are funded by, that they get some really solid funding. So they have sort of state of the art things. I did also notice in one of our, I think it was the digital backpack, that like some of the upper grade kids are making a Braille bulletin board, which I thought was super cool because this young person at Fairview is learning Braille and it's just all really wonderful. The director, Taryn, is going to be meeting with our administration to talk about projections for next year, which we kind of touched on, how many students would be needing NTDS services and enrollment and things like that. So everybody's thinking about, there's a lot of forward planning, which I think is amazing. They're already starting to think about summer school. A lot of satellite locations are offering summer school, so it's closer to kids' houses. And then there's a Township Institute Day where I think all the Niles Township schools have a in-service at Niles West, and NTDSE sort of does like a workshop day where they get to learn about the different services and accommodations for kids and things like that. So I think that's fantastic. They're doing like a book study, and then we, as the governing board of NTDSE, we also evaluate that director. So her evaluation is coming up in the spring. That means I'm supposed to be somewhere. And so we'll be looking at Taryn's evaluation and moving through into the spring. And the building looks amazing. Their furniture just came in and it was really exciting. So
This would be a good time to do a tour then.
yeah, I think they have offered some.
Yeah, no, she said
Yeah.
that when she presented to us
I don't know how to
a couple of
turn
months
this
ago.
on.
And I really
Um,
do want to see the new building, so.
I mean, even just being in the conference room is really exciting.
Yeah,
Like, it's just
yeah.
beautiful.
I mean, just the facility is just.
So,
amazing. And that's before they did the building. Great, thanks very much, Nora. Okay, so moving on, we have freedom of information requests. I can confirm that there were 2 requests received in this last month and they were handled appropriately. Information items and correspondence. Mr. Secretary, do we have anything?
I don't believe so.
We have none, okay. Which brings us to public comment. This is where we would invite the members of the audience to address the board. If you could come to the microphone and state your name, and you will have 3 minutes to address the board. Does anybody wish to address the board? Nope. I've just been told that there were no online comments either, so we're good with that. Excellent. So action items. We're on the home straight. So the first item we have is in fact a consent agenda, which has combined to approve the staff seniority list, to approve the support staff seniority list, and to approve the release of closed session minutes. The closed session minutes were discussed in closed session earlier this evening, and I can confirm that the board has approved that none of those last 5 months are approved for release. So the approval is to not approve, if you said not to release. Yeah. But first of all, can I have a motion and a second for that consent agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, is there anything we need to know about the staff seniority list or support staff seniority list?
Sorry, Jackie just pointed something out that I'll mention in a moment. No, annually, the union and the district reviews the staff seniority list to make sure that we're in agreement with the number of years. The seniority list really comes into play if we have any riffing that needs to occur in the district. You know, we're a little too early to know if there's going to be any riffing this year. But that's, you know, part of the reason why the list is so important. Contractually, we're obligated to post the list once the board's approved it. So this is something that you typically do on an annual basis. The support staff is not unionized in this district, but we also put together a support staff list because they're, you know, they deserve to have this similar treatment to the certified employees and the unionized employees. So.
Quick question about the list. Why do I have so many questions? I think I know the answer, but some staff members have like a district awarded versus a TRS awarded or something.
Right.
There were only a couple that had like a discrepancy. Is it service somewhere
Right.
else that counts here?
No, so when they have a fractional year, so some people work part-time for us and then they move into full-time, or for whatever reason, there might be a fraction for district recognition, which is just our own internal thing. We like round it for them. And that's just the way that we've always done it. There are some where there's a couple, and it could be, depending upon the individual, it could be that they started as an aide in the district and then moved into a teaching position. So that's, you know, a little bit of a different story. But they were still here for those years. So for district recognition, they, you know, have spent that time in the district, just maybe in a different role.
Any other questions? Okay, so as regards our consent agenda, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That consent agenda is approved. So yes.
Can I jump? So Jackie just brought to my attention that there's an error on the action items and the board policies weren't included on the posted agenda.
You're
So we
absolutely right.
cannot, we all look at this. I don't know how we missed that. Thank you.
Okay.
So
Well
we
spotted.
cannot approve those policies this
Because
month
they're not
because it
on the
wasn't
agenda.
properly posted. So what I would suggest is that we not necessarily go through an agenda item next month and go through all of them again, unless there are new questions, which there might be. But that we would put it on for approval at the
Mhm.
February. That's really the only thing we have. That's the only option we have to do this properly.
Yeah, it's not on
So
the-
I apologize. That's my error.
Okay, so, and as you said, we could just put it as an approval item. We still would hopefully have the answer on that substitute teacher issue,
Correct.
which we can just discuss at the time.
Yeah.
Well
That is
spotted,
the
Jackie.
agenda.
Okay, so the other action item that is on the agenda that we can take a vote on is, can I have a motion and a second to approve the facility project bids that were presented to us, or explained to us, I should say, early this evening? Can I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. So just to reiterate what we were saying earlier today, earlier this evening, the project bids are exactly as we originally planned and were planning to approve, with the exception of adding a bid for repairing the track. So that part of it is over and above the original plan that the board approved to for the entire facility project.
Correct. You're approving, the bid package includes window treatments, asphalt and paving, landscaping, and fencing and gates. And the add-on was the track.
Is there any questions or concerns about that? Okay, in that case, could the secretary please call a roll call vote for this one?
Yes, I vote yes. Mr. Juliana,
Yes.
Ms. Downing, Ms. Theokakis.
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes,
and Ms. Bujdi.
Yes.
I'm going to message John Del Genio and tell him he's getting his
Oh,
new track.
My goodness. He'll be at the winter bingo, so you can see him live and in person.
He's my Scrabble buddy. I will find him on Scrabble. Okay, so next item is any items for future consideration. Please join us at the Edward dinner. That's one thing I would just say. The other question was about March meeting. And that is because the March meeting is scheduled for, is it the 16th? I forget now. It's the middle of the month.
Third Wednesday. 15th? The 15th. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So it's scheduled for the 15th, the Ides of March. And the issue is that it's actually the same night as the IESB spring meeting. That's happened before, which is unfortunate, but the reason we were considering changing it on this occasion is because what the IESB does at that meeting in election years is that they have a pre-dinner workshop for those people that are on the ballot to be elected to school board positions. So obviously at that time in March, they know they're on the ballot and they're obviously hoping that they will get elected, but they're not actually elected at that time. But if they want to, they can actually come to the meeting before the dinner meeting and learn more about IASB. And I would strongly encourage anyone out there that is on the docket for April's election to attend that and learn more about IASB. But also it would mean that we could attend if we switch that date to an alternative date. So what does everybody think? I mean, I'm easy. It could be the following Wednesday, or it could be another day in that week.
Can we do the following week?
The following
Second.
Wednesday would be the
22nd.
22nd.
The 22nd is good with me.
That works for me.
How does everybody feel?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, we will go for the 22nd. So we'll obviously be posting that to say that the date of the meeting has changed. And the next thing, as soon as the sign up for that dinner meeting happens, then we'll also make sure that our prospective candidates, no, they are candidates, I should say, that they know about the meeting and that they would be invited to come along as well. So
We haven't gotten a whole lot of information other than the
No.
date. It's usually in the suburban area.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure where it might
It's
be.
probably at a hotel, because the one in the fall was at Evanston High School, and usually they do one at a school and one at a hotel.
Right.
Yeah.
right, Right.
So I'm guessing it will be a hotel, and I think the orientations I've been to before were at
Right.
hotels.
And as soon as we get that information, we will send that out to all of the candidates.
Okay, good. I'm glad we sorted that out. That made things easy. So if there is nothing else for discussion or bring forward. Okay, can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting at 8:01?
I'll second.
Okay, could the secretary please call the roll call vote?
Yes, Ms. Bougie,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Diakakis.
Yes.
Ms. Downing, Mr. Juliana,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much, everybody.